Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers today. A couple days ago, of course, they lose in the conference final. They're out in 4 games straight. Tonight, we don't have a hockey game as a result. We would have had Game 5 in Denver. We would have had Kane back in the lineup. Would have been some interesting storylines. But the Oilers don't quite get there. Now, for the Oilers, they have to focus on the positive, and they have to fix what's wrong in the negative. And, of course, goaltending has already been talked about. There's already, do we have a starter? This conversation's begun for next season. Now, Smith's still under contract for next year, so either they trade him, which is possible, but he's 40 years of age, and we'll see if anybody would take that contract. And if they don't trade him, then maybe he's a 1A, 1B situation with somebody else. Do they bring back Koskinen? Like, would Ken Holland dare? And the answer we saw last summer was, yeah, actually. So we'll see whether or not that happens. Now, their overall record was 49-27-6, split between 2 coaches. Now, when Tippett was fired, they were 23-18-3, and they really didn't look like they were going to be a playoff team. They were really spinning their wheels. There was a lot of talk about, well, they don't have the depth, they're just not good enough, and all this fun stuff. Jay Woodcroft takes over. The record under Woodcroft, 26-9-3. And Ken Holland loved the job that he did. And so the plan is to bring Woodcroft back for next year. And of course, Woodcroft, I would think, would want to come back. He's already saying all the things about how, we didn't quite get done what we wanted to get done. He's proud of the guys and all that. But yeah, so odds are he comes back. And their record in April going into the playoffs was 11-2-1. So they had an excellent record going into the playoffs. And they do make it to the conference finals. That shouldn't be underestimated. They win in the first round in 7 games over LA. Great series there. The Battle of Alberta didn't go long enough. 5 games, they beat Calgary, and then they lose in 4 straight against the Colorado Avalanche, who could very well win the Stanley Cup. We'll see if it's Tampa or if it's the Rangers they play. They could very well win the Stanley Cup. Now, I want to look at the Oilers over the last decade, because I think this gets kind of forgotten in the midst of what we're seeing right now with them losing and everybody piling on. They didn't make the playoffs from 2013 till 2016, if you look at the last decade, not going back further than 2013. But the Oilers had a hard time making the playoffs. They finally made it in 2017. They were seen as an up-and-coming team. They lost in 7 games in the second round against Anaheim. Now, I remember 2017 well. Toronto, with Matthews, was on their way up, and McDavid was bringing the Oilers up, and there was the debate. This was a legit debate 5 years ago. Which team's going to win more Stanley Cups, the Oilers or the Leafs? And after 2017 and 2018 and 2019, the Oilers fall back out of the playoffs. 2020, they were a high seed, but they lost to the number 12 seed in the qualifying round, 3-1 against Chicago. So Chicago using their experience to rattle the Oilers, and the Oilers just weren't able to get that win when they needed it. And then, of course, last year in the first round, they get swept by the Winnipeg Jets, a result which shocked me, even shocked my wife, and she's a Jets fan. And so that was a tough go of it for the Edmonton Oilers. 2 good seasons in a row where they couldn't get anywhere. They won 1 game in their 2 series between 2020 and 2021. So this year, they absolutely take a step. They do lose in the conference final in 4 straight against Colorado, but it's important that they show some progress, because while Sidle and McDavid are under contract for a while yet to come, Sidle's got 3 more years and McDavid has 4, those years pass very quickly. Take it from me, years pass very quickly, especially as you get older. So, honestly, they do need to figure this out and get things in order to get to at least a cup final over the next couple of years. Something, because at some point, McDavid, Sidle, as they get through their prime years, are going to be saying, we love it here in Edmonton, but... And so it's important that the Oilers head that off and make the right moves. So can Ken Holland do that? I know there are tremendous opinions on Ken Holland one way or the other. So if we look at their playoff scoring leaders, McDavid, he's probably going to end up leading the playoffs in scoring even though they don't make the final. 33 points in 16 games, 10 goals, 23 assists. Absolutely ridiculous. Colorado slowed him down. They didn't stop him. Draisaitl, 16 games, 7 goals, 26 assists, 33 points for him as well. Just imagine if he had 2 legs. He was playing on 1 leg for most of the playoffs, still puts up 33 points in 16 games. Absolute warrior. I don't ever want to hear anything about his effort level again. And two-way level as well. He did come back and back check, even though his ankle was telling him it wanted to sit down. Evander Kane, 15 games, 13 goals, 4 assists, 17 points. The team wants him back. The players want him back. It's a matter of making it work with the salary cap. Zach Hyman, 16 games, 11 goals, 5 assists, 16 points. Hyman worked out really, really well for the Oilers. I think they're quite happy with that contract right now. Whether they're happy with it or not down the road, doesn't really matter. They're happy with it right now. And then you've got Nugent Hopkins, 16 games, 6 goals, 8 assists, 14 points. And Nugent Hopkins was playing through injury as well. So a lot of players playing through injury, a lot of struggles. And again, these are the kinds of stories that can help the Oilers get over the hump next season. Playoff goaltending. This is the big point, right? Smith, 8-6 with a .913 save percentage. That save percentage took a beating against Colorado after growing quite well against Calgary after that first game. That first game against Calgary was ugly, but then after that, the Oilers had it locked down. And then Koskinen went 0-2 with an .897 save percentage, and I don't think Koskinen returns next year. Unless Holland doesn't find anything on the market that works for him. Which is what happened last year. That's how he put it. He re-signed Smith, and he said, well, there just weren't better options out there. Now, whether or not Skinner gets into the conversation for next year, that's a question to ask as well. If you decide to let Koskinen walk and you put Skinner in the lineup next year, right? And again, this is a team that wants to win a Stanley Cup. So if you have Smith and Skinner as your goaltending tandem, I hope it works out better than that would look on paper. Regular season leaders, Connor McDavid. Here's the funny thing. 44 goals, 79 assists for 123 points in 80 games. He slowed down. His scoring was at a rate where we thought he was going to hit 150 or 160 points. I still think there's a 150-point season there for Connor McDavid at some point. And I think it's just because he can really will the puck into the net. He plays a ton of minutes, and it never seems to bother him. In fact, if anything, I think he'd want to play more if he had the opportunity. Sidle, 55 goals, 55 assists, 110 points in 80 games. Sidle, as I've said, fantastic season for him, and he adds to his legend. And so now it looks like that contract that when he signed it looked crazy. Now it's kind of crazy cheap considering what they get from him at this stage. Zach Hyman, 76 games, 27 goals, 27 assists, 54 points. Again, Hyman had a really good year. Nugent Hopkins on the board with 11 goals, 39 assists for 50 points in 63 games. And Bouchard, young defenseman who really grew into his role this year, 12 goals, 31 assists for 43 points in 81 games played. So, really, the Oilers have a very good top-tier talent team when you look at the top 5 or 6 players. It is the depth where you have to ask some questions. They need more goals from Yamamoto. They need more production from Puljujarvi. If Kane could come in and play the whole season the way he did after coming in midway through the season for them this year, that would benefit them greatly. But again, now we get into the regular season goaltending. Koskinen, 27, 12, and 4 with a .903 save percentage. Smith, 16, 9, and 2 with a .915 save percentage. Odds are they are going to be trying to fix that this offseason. The good news is there's a lot of teams looking to improve their goaltending. The bad news is I don't know that there's a lot of market for Smith. Koskinen as a UFA, we'll see what kind of contract he gets and where. I get this funny feeling on it being Dallas. For no reason other than Dallas just usually has some random goaltending signing, so sure, why not Dallas? Now watch it happen. But it's going to be interesting to see how this changes. Now, according to Cap Friendly, they have $7.13 million in cap space for next year, which makes it difficult to really improve things. And this is why when they acquired the Duncan Keith contract and didn't have Chicago retain anything, there was some head scratching with that, right? Now, Neal and Sekera, the buyouts for their contracts, that's a combined cap hit of $3.4 million. So that's a $3.4 million cap hit. That's dead cap. There's also another $750,000 in dead cap. It's over $4 million in dead cap space at a time where you need every dollar you can get in order to build a really good team. So they're pending UFAs. Archibald, I think, is probably done as an Oiler. Brassard had a decent showing after coming over. If he wants to come back, if they want him back as a bottom 6 forward, probably make that work. Evander Kane, how much is Kane worth and for how long? And did it affect his value that he got suspended for that final game in the series against Colorado, which, for the record, Woodcroft disagreed with the suspension, didn't think it warranted that. So there's that. But it's interesting, too, because coaches almost never say, oh, that's a fair suspension. That's fine. Kulak fit in really well. I thought Kulak had a good run with the Oilers, and so I would be surprised if they don't try to keep Kulak. But again, you got to worry about the cap, right? Russell, expiring contract, probably done. Koskinen probably gone as well. And then for RFAs, you have McLeod, one of my favorite young players on the Oilers. I think there's a lot of potential there. And then you got Puljujarvi and Yamamoto. And again, it's probably bridge deals for both. Neither player should be overly expensive since they haven't reached that full potential yet from a scoring perspective. And with Puljujarvi, I do wonder what the ceiling is for him. There's speed, there's talent. We know he's got skill for days. But what is the ceiling, and what is he going to end up as his benchmark? Is he going to be a 20, 25 goal scorer? Is he going to be a 15 goal scorer? Is he a legit top six forward? Should he be in a third line energy role? And if that's the case, then the Oilers would likely need to go out and get some top six wings or whatever they're going to do, right? Because again, you've got Hyman. If you keep Kane, you might be all right. And of course, Nugent Hopkins, should he be a third line center? I've said that for years. But he can also play on the wing on a top two line as well. And then you get into double shifting. Nugent Hopkins is double shifted. Sidle, McDavid's double shifted. What that shows is that you have guys who can play multiple roles, and you probably don't have as much depth as you would want. And that's definitely an issue that the Oilers need to work on. Ken Holland needs to address. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for them, and to see how they navigate the salary cap. I'm sure there are Detroit Red Wing fans looking at this situation and saying, yeah, so you have a team that's up against the cap, may or may not get over the hump. Sounds familiar. Now, again, Ken Holland is going to do his best, I think, in the offseason to remedy the goaltending situation. I expect Marc-Andre Fleury's name to get brought up. I don't know if at this stage in his career, Marc-Andre Fleury would be a first number one goaltending solution for the Edmonton Oilers, but I'm not sure either on where you look and who might be available for them. I think you want a goaltender who's like a John Gibson, a goaltender who's still in his prime, a goaltender who's on a not too expensive contract, and a guy who can be a game breaker, a difference maker, really. What they needed and didn't have against Colorado is the goaltender who steals the games. Vasilevsky steals games. Shesterkin steals games. At times this season, Darcy Kemper was stealing games for Colorado as well. And it is something you can measure whether or not a goaltender is stealing a lot of games, but it doesn't feel like the Oilers have that as much as others, and that can be the difference in the playoffs. Having that goaltender that wins the game for you that you don't have any right to win can inspire the players, have them play a little bigger, and just make their team that much better. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Edmonton Oilers, what they need to do in the offseason. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.